Hey, what's up you guys, The Curious Owl here, and today I have my January 2023 wrap-up. So January felt like it flew by so quick. I don't know what happened to the time. I feel like with work having been so crazy in this first month of the year, it just kind of flew completely by without me really realizing it. And I didn't get as much as I wanted to read, but I am proud of the fact that I did get quite a few things read, and everything was really good. I didn't have any duds this month, which I was really impressed by because I was a little scared that I was going to have a few duds. But without further ado, let's get into the stats for the month of January. So in the month of January, I had 7 books that I had completed, 5 of which were from my physical TBR. I had 1 ebook as well as 1 audiobook, and I ended up reading a total of 2,880 physical pages or even ebook pages, and had a total of 12 hours, 31 minutes, and 10 seconds worth of audiobook time. 4 of the books that I read this month were from my personal library, either physically or on my Kindle, and the other 3 were borrowed from my local library. Out of everything this entire month, I had 2 books that were 5-star reads, and the rest of the 5 that I read this month were 4 stars. So a really good month, a very strong start to the year. The first book I completed this month was actually a carryover from December of 2022, and it was my first completed read of the year, and that was Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I really enjoyed this a lot. I was actually surprised extensively by how much I enjoyed this. I did give it a 4 out of 5 stars, but I love the way that this kind of had developed over the course of the entirety of the book. It was violent, it was gory, it was very heartbreaking, and I really liked a lot of the competition that was involved in this, and I'm very excited to be able to continue the rest of the series, hopefully later this year. Next book I ended up completing was a large feat by itself and took up probably the majority of my month of January, and that was reading the final book in the Stormlight Archive series by Brandon Sanderson to this date currently, because there's going to be 10 books, but this is the newest one that's come out, and that was Rhythm of War. Now, again, this is not the last book in the series, but this is the most recent book that there has been, and there's going to be 10 books in this series. But this completed the Cosmere read-along that I had participated in with Brandy and Bree that I have been doing all year 2022, and we finally wrapped up by finishing out the Stormlight Archive. And I will say, this was probably my second favorite book in the entire series. Oathbringer still, for some reason, was the best out of all of them, but I really did enjoy especially the main storylines that were going on in this one. I really feel like I have gotten close to a lot of these characters, and I ended up giving this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I do struggle a lot with Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive, for those of you that don't know. I don't know what it is, but for some reason this series had gone way over my head for what felt like a lot of it, but I will say that the 3rd and 4th books were my favorites of the series, and I am excited to see how the next book goes, because there were some things that happened at the end of this one that made me really nervous for some characters by the end of it. So I am very excited to hear whenever the next book comes out. The next book I read was my favorite book of the month, and it was the beginning of a read-along that I am doing this year, which is reading N.K. Jemisin's entire catalog of books, starting off with the first book in the Broken Earth trilogy, The Fifth Season. I loved this so much. I am so shocked at how long it has been since this book has been out, and I've never read it. I honestly am so glad I decided to do this reading series with you guys, and that I'm gonna have participation with this. I'm not gonna say many of my thoughts here because I want to hold them all for the live show I'm gonna be doing. So I'm very excited though for the rest of this series. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. Like I said, this is my favorite book of the entire month. I just cannot stop talking about this book with people. It is so freaking good. If you're interested in the live show, it is actually going to be tonight when this video goes out. It will be tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you'd like to come and join us in a discussion of the 5th season. If you've read it, that would be awesome, and I would love to see you there. Next book was a book I read for my Finish Your DNF series, and this will go into the next 3 books in this wrap-up, which all can be described in my Finish Your DNF video. But the first book is Polaris Rising by Jessie Mihalik. This is the first book in the Consortium Rebellion, which is a sci-fi romance companion novel series. Each book follows a different sister in this family who all are basically involved in this really powerful royal house in basically the very, very distant future, and there's a lot of different things going on with each of the individual characters. In this one, we meet Ada, who is basically a rogue daughter. She has been on the run for 2 years after basically running away from a marriage proposal that was basically bestowed upon her through her family, and she is basically being captured and they are trying to get her back to her family, but she ends up meeting this man named Locke, who is supposedly also a really notorious, like, serial murderer of some kind, and she teams up with him hoping that he can help her escape, and the rest goes on from there. I reserved my thoughts for this book in that video for my Finish Your DNF series, but this did get a 5 out of 5 stars from me. Immediately, I jumped into book 2, which was Aurora Blazing, and I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. Again, my thoughts for this will be involved in the Finish Your DNF video, but this follows Ada's sister, Bianca. And then immediately following that, I read the 3rd and final book so far in this series, which was Chaos Reigning. This one follows the youngest sister of this family named Katarina, and I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. And then the last book I completed this month was Wild Seed by Octavia E. Butler. I read this because my friend Bree from Bree Cherie Reads is hosting a read-along this year over the course of 2023, reading Octavia E. Butler's books, and this was the first one. This is the first book in the Patternist series, and I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed a lot of the elements that were involved in this. It's got a very kind of like almost fantasy but not quite aspect to it, where you follow a character named Anyanwu, who essentially is this immortal being, and she gets involved with another immortal being named Doro, and Doro is basically trying to use Anyanwu to prolong his heritage and prolong his family line. And essentially this story is dark, it is gritty, it is really, really traumatizing in some cases. Like, there's some really dark stuff that comes up in this, and the only reason it didn't get a 5 out of 5 stars for me is I felt like the writing of it, personally, for me, I got a little lost at times. Like, I just couldn't quite differentiate between certain characters, and that's nothing to do on the story itself. That's not anything to say about the writer and that I didn't like it. I really liked this. I just got very confused partway through. It would just probably be something I would need to read at least one more time by itself to really feel like I got everything cemented in terms of the details. But this is a very, very well done story. I really like the way that Octavia Butler writes, and I am very excited to continue on with not only the Patternist series, but then also more of Octavia's writing, as I will be continuing to do this read-along for the rest of the year with Bree. Without further ado, those are all of the books I ended up reading in the month of January. Again, I'm very proud of myself that I got through 7 books this month. I really did not think I was going to get through even 3 books this month, but I'm so glad that I was able to. I'm really, really excited for how February is going to go. I think it's going to turn out to be a pretty decent month, even though it's going to be shorter, but I'm just excited nonetheless. I feel like I'm getting back into the swing of reading again and reading more often, and I am just hoping to continue to ride that high for the next little while until I come crashing down, because that's always inevitable too. Thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up, and if you haven't already and you'd like to be and would like to see more content like this, go ahead and hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock, and I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys!